The idea with part C is kind of to create order from chaos. And I've done something very similar to what the instructions talked about, which is cutting out a variety of different shapes. I do have slightly more than the minimum required number of rectangles. I think it says 5 and I've got 6. But the idea is that you're going to take this cluster of random different shaped stuff and create an arrangement that makes sense. I'm going to show you first the most common incorrect version of what I get for this assignment. And that is that people grab the shapes, and because it says edge alignment, they push them up to the edge of the rectangle and try to create what is in effect a really unattractive border pattern from these items, and they just cram everything against the sides, and they basically finish doing that and call it done. And that is not at all what this is supposed to be about, because this has not created a cohesive whole. It has created a bunch of shapes that people have crammed against the side of the area that we have to work within. It has not made this communicate better. It has not made them work as a whole. Even if I rearrange the order in which they happen, so long as I cram them along the edge, this does not meet what is meant by this assignment and what you're supposed to be focused on. If you look back at the book and go up to this example at sort of just below the top of page 32, what's happening within the red example on the right, or truthfully, the version that's been inverted to, the red version on the left or the version that's been inverted on the right, you got the same thing happening. They've taken all of this large group of different shapes and they've used this idea of edge alignment to create some order within it. They have created effectively an outer rectangle, but there's some irregular spacing behind it or around it that still has some order to it. So they've created some order from the chaos. So that's what we're focused on. That's what we're trying to do. So instead of taking all these and clumping them around the edge, we're going to figure out how to arrange them. And I'm going to step back to where I was previously. How to arrange them that can give us some of that order from chaos. I'm going to scoot mine down just a little bit so I have some sort of a top edge that I can start working towards. And this will be easier if you use some of those rectangular elements that you have to establish the area within which you're going to be arranging these guys. So I'm going to use my rectangles to form my corners, and then I'm going to fill in around them with the other elements that I have in play. And it doesn't even matter exactly what rectangles that I use. I could use big ones, small ones, whatever. Just so long as you have something to give you that basic framework, you're going to be better off. And so I now have my corners established, and I'm trying to align the outside edges of these shapes so that this will work. And the bottom edge is not good with my little square, so that's better. Okay, so now the square aligns with the rectangle on the bottom right, aligns with the one above it, aligns with the one to the left of it. And that's my basic framework that I'm going to work with. And then inside of here, I'm going to start creating groupings. And for some of this, it may mean that we need to change the rotation of the object to help out. We're going to consider always the spacing, but the goal is to create some order from chaos. And I may end up needing to push these closer together in the end to make them work. But I'm always trying to think about and look at the spacing and consider how my groupings are happening. And when, like, to me, that star is too close to the weird red blobby thing. So I'm going to scoot it over a little bit and find a position that works a little bit better until I can find some way of creating something that's a little more orderly. And I may even find that I want a red rectangle somewhere in there, or I may leave extra space. Everybody is going to approach this just a little bit differently, but the idea in general is that you can create some order from what initially appeared to just be a whole bunch of chaos. And I'm not there yet, but it's more orderly than it was certainly, and I'm definitely going to need to move to the right in the end to sort of get this where it needs to be. And I think that one may go there. I didn't realize I had an extra rectangle stacked on top of another rectangle. Okay, so I'm getting closer to where I want to be. I actually think this little red square is going to help me out here by filling in a gap more so than where it was previously. And I'm going to move this over, and I may move this out. And I've got a little bit too much space, but the block of stuff I have here is infinitely more organized than it was previously. And you can see there is some edge aligning happening. There is a framework here. If this were to stay the way it is, it looks weird. So I'm going to add in a couple of extra red rectangles to sort of unite and unify some of the elements. And something like that, if I were trying to create a composite cluster, could work as an edge aligned group. It's definitely not all about the border, but there is some interior arrangement and logic for what we're ending up with here. So use the concepts that I just demonstrated plus the example at the top of page 32 to create your own edge aligned group from your variety of random shapes that you cut out of the construction paper.